Hello, people. It's your boy Osman back again with another Manchester United podcast. I can't even get the words out. But listen, the Manchester United podcast is back. I am working on a couple of things behind closed doors. The debate show is coming back very shortly, and I can assure you it's going to be an absolute banger 3v3 settings. But that aside, today, as you can see from the title, we have got a Manchester United 22-23 season review. We're not going to go into too much detail because there is so much to discuss, including the Qatar update, obviously the situation going on with there, and of course, the transfer news. But listen, without further ado, I have got a very special guest today, one of the most genuine people, my day one. She's been supporting me from the start. Obviously, I don't upload that much in there. But listen, regardless of when I upload, she's always supporting, always willing to come on the channel. And to be fair, one of the best, if not the best female content creators on the thing. So if you're not following her, you need to follow her. Shout out to the homie and welcome back to the channel. Alice, how you doing?
Thank you for that lovely introduction. I'm doing good, thanks. Sun over in England for a change. It put me in a better mood, but some of the news coming out, it's a frustrating day to be a United fan with everyone doing business. City in a final, could get the treble, and the news about Sir Jim. It's not the best time to be a United fan.
Yeah, I mean, we were just saying before we come on live, it's peak to say the least. I mean, my mood has been extremely low for most of the day due to the fact that it seems inevitable that Sir Jim will be the new owner. I think that's probably the best place to start. And then obviously we'll just go into individual players, that kind of thing. But as always, if you're tuning in, feel free to slap a like on the video and of course subscribe to the channel. I believe I'm 10 of the next milestone, so I'd appreciate Alice's handle is in the title of the video, so obviously make sure you subscribe to the channel as well. But listen, Alice, let's get straight into it. Let's just get your thoughts on the situation first and foremost. I'm sure you're well aware of the situation in terms of Sheikh Jassim put a take it or leave it offer on the table. He's had enough, Alice. Can you blame him?
I can't blame them. We've had enough. Imagine how they're feeling. Like, this is taking up a lot of their time. If we're fed up, I can't imagine how fed up he is, especially because it seems that he's not had much communication with the Rain Group. There's been some falling out there, and all he's hearing is Sir Jim this, Sir Jim that. But he's not been told he's out of the race. But we keep getting told that Sir Jim is leading the race, and he must be like, you know what? The transfer window is here. I want to back Ten Hag. I want to get on with it. I want to get on my plans. It's been 7 months. You know, if they're playing a game with me, they could be using Sir Jim to get more out of him. And he might just be like, I'm not playing games. This is my bid. Take it or leave it, or take Sir Jim. I think that's what he's doing. And you can't blame him one bit because, I mean, we knew with the Glazers they were going to drag every ounce of fun and enjoyment out of this takeover. But everyone else is doing business. It's time it gets done.
Absolutely. I mean, it's his fifth bid. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous that he's had to bid that many times. I understand the first and the second bid potentially may have been lower than what they expected for, they asked for. So, understandably so, from the Glazers' perspective, they rejected them off the bat. But that being said, I just think it's an absolute farce. I mean, the whole situation for me reeks of the Glazers ruining the club one last time before they can leave. I mean, my biggest issue is, regardless of the owners, and we will talk about obviously your preference shortly, but it's just the time it's taking. I mean, look at Liverpool, they've already signed a player and we haven't even got owners. I mean, the fact that other teams are already moving in the window, you know, Rice potentially on his way to Arsenal, Casado to Chelsea, you know, we don't know who they're going to, but nevertheless, these teams can actually open negotiations because they've got a clear structure in this moment in time. And we haven't even sorted that out. We don't even know who the owners are. So how can we go out and buy players? And I think that's my biggest worry going into the new season. But in terms of Sir Jim and Sheikh Jassim, where do you stand in that situation? Have you got a preference at all, or is it just like get the Glazers out at all costs?
Obviously, as a United fan, I want the Glazers gone. I want to be able to compete with City. I want this stadium to be done up. It wasn't picked as a Euro stadium in the England bid for a reason. You know, we are the biggest club in the world, especially the biggest club in England. I want United getting back to the top, and I only feel that Sheikh Jassim can do that. I'm not confident in Sir Jim because of what he's done at Nice. I mean, I'm at the point with the takeover taking so long. If they pick Sir Jim, my thought process will be at least it's over. You know, and I think Sir Jim would be a slight improvement on the Glazers. But when you've got Sir Jim and you've got Qatar, when you've got someone clearing the debt, building a new stadium, already putting $1 billion in pledged investment, And then you've got Sir Jim running Nice, a little bit dodgy, borrowing money to do it, keeping the Glazers here. He wanted to buy Chelsea not that long ago. Is he a genuine United fan? I think you can only go with Qatar, because Middle Eastern ownership of football, from what we've seen, has been a lot more successful than what we've seen Sir Jim do at Nice.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, this comment he's saying, what is the latest in the sales? To be honest, there hasn't really been that much of a latest, but as Alice has already alluded to, the British media are essentially pushing the Ratcliffe saga. I mean, it's extremely biased within this country. I mean, it's quite apparent who the media want. They have been pretty much Sir Jim Ratcliffe from the get-go. They do not want Sheikh Jassim for whatever reason. I'm sure, there's a lot of political connotation towards that. We don't need to dissect into, but look, for me personally, the whole situation is embarrassing. I mean, the fact that he's essentially doing what the Glazers did, and this is what my biggest concern is. He's basically doing what the Glazers did when they initially bought Manchester United. He's buying us with debt. He's using a loan. Okay, some people are saying the debt's not going to affect Manchester United, etc., etc. It doesn't matter. Why would you want another owner who's got debt, whether it goes onto the club or not? If that owner's got debt, he's always going to be thinking about that situation. How can I, recoup money to sort that debt out? Can I use Man United to obviously cover some things here and there? It's just going to be an absolute shit show from the get-go. And I think, for me as a fan, the biggest red flag is the situation at Nice. I mean, I think their captain's Dante. I can't remember. I've mentioned in a previous video. It is Dante. Okay, so if you don't know what Dante is, he plays for Nice. He's a captain, as I've already mentioned. Previously of Bayern Munich, he's a very credible player, etc. And he's come out essentially and put Sir Jim on blast. Said, you're all talk and no walk. Essentially, you basically do what the Glazers do. You're absolutely waffling to the masses, and you don't back you up with your actions. And that, for me, is a major red flag. I don't know if it's PTSD from the Glazers, but it just shows me that he's not serious. And people may say he might be more serious about Manchester United because it's a bigger club. I don't care. At the end of the day, that's your body of work. That's the only thing as a reference that we can take as your work as an owner, and it's an absolute failure. It's an absolute failure. Make no mistake about it. Nice have not done well since the takeover, and for me, it just screams out massive red flag. I mean, I don't know what you think on that situation, Alice.
It's just, I'm with you. It's just a big red flag. False promises. We get a lot of that. So Jim claims to be a United fan, and his best intention is with us. But if you were a United fan, you wouldn't be doing a deal which would involve the Glazers staying. Now, it is said the Glazers are going to have no control, and he is saying that he will do this, and the Glazers have no control of that. But as we said at Nice, then the people of Nice do not like him because he will say he'll do something, and that is the Uber Eats League. That is a farmers' league. If you can't get Nice, who are actually one of the biggest clubs in that league, to be competitive, how are you going to deal with the most competitive league in the world, the Premier League? You see, we are the top 7 now with Newcastle emerging. There's 4, maybe 5 Champions League spots some season because of the new changes. But, it's not just about being the Champions League. We're United. We should be winning titles. The fact that we've gone 10 years without a Premier League title is a disgrace in itself. If you look at the size of our club, the fact that City could be matching our treble is a disgrace as well. And you need an owner that actually has the ability to manage a big club. It's not just about having the money. It's about having the ability to manage a big club. And Sir Jim, not only does he not have the money that Qatar have, but he hasn't proven to me he's got the ability to manage United. He says he'll bring in Paul Mitchell with some report, but is that just British media PR? Because there's a lot of PR in the British media and the reports towards Sir Jim. I don't trust him.
I mean, look, Paul Mitchell would be a fantastic addition to the United structure, make no mistake about that. However, I don't know if people are aware of this, but Sir Jim is basically done an absolute masterclass in being a politician. He's lied from the jump, and then on top of that, he's lied again. I mean, first and foremost, when Sir Jim was linked to Manchester United, he was the only real person linked to Manchester United. There wasn't Sheikh Jassim wasn't in the picture at that point, and there wasn't really any competition. And I remember at the time, me included, I just wanted the Glazers gone at that point, and I was all on the Sheikh. So I was all on this Ratcliffe bandwagon. Yes, someone's going to save us from the clutches of the Glazers. But when you actually when you actually do a bit of homework and obviously read into what he's doing, firstly, he's not squeaky clean. He has got a background, but again, most billionaires do. But secondly, he just has a knack of lying constantly. I mean, what happened to Full Sail? I mean, the homie here, Red Devil, there we go, Red Devil Studio. Shout out to you, my bro. Hopefully you well. Full Sail only. What happened? I mean, we were told as fans, Full Sail only. We want to get rid of the Glazers. Granted, the Glazers won't have the power and all the rest of it. How can we take anything you say serious when you've lied to us time and time again? What's to say he doesn't come in and keeps Maguire, De Gea? I don't know. Like, we generally don't know. Like, obviously, you know, everyone has different preferences. As an owner, they might actually want to keep Maguire because he's British. We don't know, honestly. But for me, he's lied too many times. I mean, you can lie once and get away with it. Lying twice, I'm not stupid. I mean, you can fool other people, but 3 times he's gonna come in now and say, "Oh, they haven't got power," and then we're gonna find out that. I mean, regardless of do have power, the fact that he's given them an avenue to continue to leash the club shows me that he is absolutely unaware of the fan base. I mean, how can you be that oblivious to the fan base? I mean, no fan wants him. Literally no fan wants him. But let's just quickly get some of your comments in. There's no preferred bidder. There has been reports coming out today saying that basically a lot of the previous reports from 24 hours ago were essentially false. You know, there's no one preferred. But for me, I just think the Glazers are going to pick Sergio. I mean, it'd be stupid not to, and that's not me trying to encourage them. As a United fan, that would be an absolute travesty if they do that. But from an owner's perspective and perspective of being greedy, which they're an absolute professional at, they're probably going to want someone that keeps 20%. But listen, Alice, let's talk about the window itself, because obviously, you know, we could probably sit here and do a full show on the ownership because it's an absolute shit show. But let's talk about the window itself. I've seen you tweet a few times regarding, you know, people that you want. Like, where do you sit with the whole De Gea situation? Let's just start with David De Gea firstly, right from the back. Do you think he's going to stay, or what do you reckon?
Do I think he'll? I don't know really. I think it depends on the money we raise through sales with De Gea. I think we're in a position where the striker's the number 1 priority, then the midfielder, and then we want areas like goalkeeper, centre back, another striker, another midfielder. But I think it depends on who the ownership is and how much money we raise through sales. Because there's a report today saying that Maguire's happy to stay, which, you know, that would have been maybe 25 million. And then if Maguire isn't sold, we don't get Kim Min-jae. There's so many stories going about. I mean, I'm at the point now where I think we need to move on De Gea. I think we've gone as far as we can with him. I understood him staying last summer because we had just bigger problems. But I think we're at the point where I do think we need a striker. I do think we need a midfielder. But in those big games, De Gea is holding us back. He's all right in those smaller games, but, you know, how many times at Wembley has he put in a stinker? You know, the Europa League final a few years back, you know, even the Europa League game against Sevilla, you know, and away from home, you know, he's a great shot stopper, but he's just, you can just see he's not that level that we need. So I do think, you know, while I'm not one of those fans that thinks De Gea is our biggest problem, I think if we want to progress, we need to move De Gea on this summer.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of some of his disappointments this season, I think that Europa League double. I mean, look, the first game, you can't really say either the goals are his fault. I mean, both on goals really, especially the Maguire one. There's not really much you can do about that one, but it's just absolutely embarrassing. I mean, the second leg performance from De Gea, to put Maguire in that situation again, people can criticize Maguire or De Gea. You just know, like, I just don't understand the thought process. You know, Maguire is not getting out of that situation, so by putting him in a situation where he's surrounded by 3 players, but that aside, I mean, De Gea, the final against Man City, people have been too critical on him, or maybe they haven't been, I don't know. But for me personally, I'm just sick and tired of his distribution. I've got to be honest. I'm actually sick and tired of it. You're a grown-ass man. Why can you not pass? I don't understand. Like, literally, just even 5 yards. Like, he just looks like he's scared on the ball. I mean, it's similar to the Maguire thing. Like, when you've got Maguire in the back, his sort of energy and his negative, sort of his nervousness kind of transcends through the team. And you saw when Martinez came into the team, obviously he's a better player, but just his calmness and his reassurance, it definitely helps the players around him. And I think that's what we need to be shooting for in terms of De Gea and Maguire. For me, they both need to dip. I mean, the reports suggesting that Maguire might be staying, and De Gea apparently is rejecting a contract in Saudi. Is extremely depressing. I can't lie. We need to get fresh blood into the team. I mean, some of these players, De Gea's case, has been here for a decade. He's been through every single manager. He's the one constant, to be fair, whether he's been good or bad through that period. He's the one constant, and he needs to get removed. So for me, he has to go. I suppose my next question, Alice, would be: is there anyone on your mind that you think we can potentially attain to replace De Gea if you were to get rid of him?
I mean, I think the obvious ones are Diogo Costa and David Raya. I think Diogo Costa's young, he's got potential to go to the top, and I think the way that Goalkeeper's moving, Ten Hag's a modern manager, Diogo Costa is what you want. But David Raya would be a little bit more affordable if we don't have much of a budget. David Raya, 1 year left on his contract. If we're getting 30 million for Dean Henderson, it's been said 40 million for David Raya, but potentially with 1 year left on his contract, Brentford might sell him for 30 million. So I would try and just go for David Raya if Diogo Costa is out of budget.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're spot on, especially with Raya. I think, to be fair to Raya, he's had a couple of shaky games toward the back end of the season. And I do think a lot of people are extremely reactionary in general. So that's basically the lasting memory that people have of him. And I think that's it's a bit disappointing because he's actually had a really good season for me personally. I mean, Brentford overall have had a great season, and I do think he's been a huge part of that. I think he's been extremely consistent throughout the entirety of the season. His passing is fantastic. Of course, there's flaws in his game, make no mistake about it, but there's flaws in most keepers' games. I think Magnon's probably my number one, but I don't think it's realistic. Although in saying that, AC Milan are currently without a DOF and director of football, that is a DOF, director of football and the CEOs, obviously with the situation there. So potentially that might be an avenue to steal him on the slide. But I think Costa would be fantastic. He didn't have a good World Cup, which is what the United way is saying. He had an absolutely atrocious World Cup.
Awful.
That was arguably one of the worst World Cup performances from a goalkeeper that I've ever seen. He made mistakes galore, but overall for Porto, it's been absolutely fantastic. And I do really think he would take us to another level. But listen, let's talk about some of the speculative players linked to United. As the title does suggest, we are going to do a review of the season, but let's just get through some of the nitty-gritty. Obviously, if you are still joining us live, make sure you do slap a like on the video, and of course, subscribe to the channel. Like I said, very close to hitting our milestone, so please subscribe if you have not. With that said, obviously, get your questions in. Obviously, if you want us to talk about any player in particular, I am reading the comments. Don't worry, I am not ignoring you guys. A shout out to Benji as well, my brother. Thank you as always for showing love. Let's quickly just go through some of these. Qatar is the only answer. Reds, hopefully, I'd rather United sign the American Brendan Harrison. To be fair, he's not actually that bad, but he's not good enough for United of a Mount. We'll get to that very shortly, and Sheikh Jassim in from Singh. But yeah, let's talk about Kim Min-jae. Obviously, we spoke about Maguire. I did see a report just before we gone live suggesting that if Manchester United do not get Kim Min-jae, or if we basically do what we do best, which is, dilly-dally over deals and take that absolute piss, Newcastle may potentially come in for him. What are your thoughts on him? Is he your number one? We are linked to the centre-back from Monaco, but I'll be honest, I don't know a first thing about him, so I'm not going to get into that. But yeah, what are your thoughts on Kim?
I think Kim Min-jae is my first choice. Arguably been one of the best, if not the best centre-back in Europe this season. The season he's had at Napoli's been unreal. For me, he's my number one choice. I quite like Jurriën Timber as well. He's got the versatility to play right back, and they're the only two names that really come to my mind. But I think Kim Min-jae is that a little bit better. I think he would work a little bit better with Martinez. Is more suited to the Premier League. He's still, at a fine age. I think he's 26, so he's still got quite a few years in him. Varane's getting on a bit. I mean, you go from Maguire to Kim Min-jae, that's real competition for Varane. That's potentially Varane being your bench option.
Yeah.
And Varane as a bench centre-back, that's depth, and that's how you achieve elite depth. I always say, when we buy players for squad depth, we need to not buy players for our bench. We need to buy players that would start in our 11. So the players that start now are the bench, and that's how you get the good squad depth. And I think Kim Min-jae is one of those. I think he's an unbelievable player. I think £42 million is the release clause, which is unreal business. and Napoli obviously desperate for him to sign a new contract. And I think, look, he would choose United. You've got to think he grew up probably watching Ji-sung Park as his idol, Man United player. Apparently, PSG pulled out the race because he made it clear he wants the Premier League as well. So I think it's one of those where it's in United's hands, but if we don't get him, we'll go to Newcastle. But it's one of those, as you said, are we going to faff? Are we going to make excuses? It's like we shouldn't be making excuses. This is an unreal centre-back. The Ten Hag wants £42 million. What's your reasoning to dilly-dally with this? But it might depend on Maguire, the situation. I think Maguire's got to go. The Euros coming up. He's the fourth choice, technically fifth choice, behind Luke Shaw at centre-back.
Yeah, sure.
So I think for me, I Kim and Jay, we've got to go for. The only thing is there's a lot of reports from Italy basically saying it's done. There's a verbal agreement. He's chosen United, la-di-la. But the English sources aren't corroborating that. And I think that potentially we could be being used there to hurry up a deal elsewhere. However, Romano did say he is our number one centre-back. You know, United have looked at him. We know from credible English sources that United have had talks. He's had meetings with Ten Hag and that, you know, United will look to move for him. But it might depend on Maguire.
Yeah, I think you're spot on in terms of, you know, your comments regarding we need players to come into the first team. I think people need to understand that this goes for every single player, maybe Bruno Fernandes, Rashford, and we'll touch upon them shortly. You know, whoever it may be in the team, that they need to be under threat. We're at Manchester United. This includes De Gea, of course, which we just mentioned. They need to be under threat for their position. If they're not performing at a high level, they need to be sat on the bench. Look at what Man City do. I mean, if you look at the final itself, I'm sure we don't want to delve into that, but we'll touch upon it later. But they literally had Mahrez, Alvarez, and Foden to bring off the bench, and we had Weghorst and McTominay. I mean, granted, we did have a couple of injuries with Martial and Anthony, which of course would have definitely helped us. But that being said, I mean, look at the depth they've got in midfield. I mean, Bernardo Silva doesn't even play in midfield because of how good Gundogan is. I mean, their players are constantly on their toes. You know, Grealish of late has held his own in that position, but he knows if he slips up, Foden's going to come in and he's not going to get another chance to get into the team. And our players, I think a lot of our players are extremely complacent, but we've been saying this for a long time. But to come back to your Kim Min-jae point, I think, honestly, from what I have seen of him, I'm not going to sit here and say I watch him week in, week out, but I've seen enough of Napoli because I generally just enjoy watching them play. He's absolutely ridiculous on the ball. I mean, his pings, both foot. I mean, he does predominantly play left-sided centre-back, but it won't be an issue. Obviously, he's extremely versatile. He's right-footed as well. I mean, he's pretty much both footed. But his pings, his diag, he's absolutely unreal at that. I think he's like one of the higher percentiles in Europe, not even just in the Serie A. But obviously, that's something that Varane does not have in his locker. I mean, Varane's a top quality player. For me, he's world class. He still is world class, and I massively rate him. However, the issue with Varane is he's extremely injury prone, and a lot of times we've had to wrap him in cotton ball. You know, can Varane play 2-3 games a week? This gives you an opportunity to potentially, I suppose, muddy call Varane and make sure he's available for those big games. But of course, he'll still play 25-30 games a season, and Kim Min could potentially share that spot with him. But Lindelof for me is a fourth option. I don't think he should be third option for United. Yeah. That's not saying Maguire should stay. Maguire is not good enough to be fifth for me. I'd actually allow one of the younger centre backs to actually get an opportunity. But yeah, Kim for me, he's just got an unbelievable, you know, ceiling. As 26, yes, still not in his peak years, and his passing range alongside Martinez would absolutely elevate our game in terms of you know ball progression. And you know, Martinez, to be fair to him, he does struggle sometimes with the longer passing. I must say, obviously, don't get me wrong, he's unbelievable. His middle to short game passing is ridiculous, but I think longer passing, I do think he struggles from time to time. But yeah, I just think from that perspective, it would be absolutely fantastic. I'm just going to quickly go through some new comments before we move on to the next player. Let's see if West Ham will move. I'm not sure what's referring to. Do you think the Glazers are still hopeful of the European Super League? I mean, I don't even want to bring that up, to be honest, because if they're holding on for that, then we are fully screwed. If the United, as the United will say, make sure you smash the like on the video. Of course, subscribe to the channel. I appreciate that. Trying to upload twice a week, if not more. United should focus on goings out first. I mean, this is a fair point, but a normal club can do both. I mean, we're so accustomed to our club being extremely incompetent that we have to feel like we need to focus on one avenue. I mean, every club apart from us can sell and buy on the same day, but obviously Man United are incapable. But let's talk about the biggest link. I mean, I know from looking at your tweets and obviously watching your videos, you're a big fan of Mason Mount. So, how are you feeling, Alice? We might be getting Mason Mount. Are you happy? Are you excited? You ready to see me red?
I'm trying to be positive about it. Like, I think watching Eriksen in that FA Cup final, I did think, all right, no, I'd take Mount watching that FA Cup final over Eriksen, because Eriksen was dreadful and Mount has the legs, and I think Mount can go in that role, you know, and be an improvement on what Eriksen and Fred offer, but is, you know, being slightly better good enough to compete with City? Look at City's midfield. Is Mason Mount good enough for that? For when we want to go, he could be top 4 player, but if we want to go into Champions League, is he good enough? And I don't think that with Mason Mount. He's not a midfield signing that comes in and I think elevates United. Like Moises Caicedo, unreal. I mean, I don't even want to say this name, but Frankie de Jong, never going to happen. Unreal. You know, even Declan Rice is a quality player. But Mount, he's had a poor season at Chelsea. He's never really done it for England. He's an all right player. But if he's our only midfield signing, it's not enough for me when we need help in midfield. Not only do we need someone to provide depth for Casemiro because we're too reliant on him, but we also need another midfielder that can get the ball off the centre backs, you know, more of a volume passer. And while Mount might help with some creativity issues, I just think I'm trying to be positive. He's young. He won Player of the Season twice in a row at Chelsea. Like, he's a decent player. Ten Hag wants him. He's an improvement on Eriksen. But if we sign Mason Mount, we need to go and sign Moises Caicedo on top of that, and then I'll be happy. If we sign both of them, I'll be happy. But if we sign Mason Mount and then just ignore the midfield, that's not good enough for me.
Is it now a case that we just, you know, trust Ten Hag? Because I know a lot of people on social media in particular have this notion that, you know, if you don't want Mason Mount, obviously you give a lot of reasons for that, but if you don't want Mason Mount, essentially you're not backing the manager. Like, do you understand that sort of narrative, or is it more so get, you know, players with actual quality rather than just what Ten Hag wants, so to speak?
I think it's good to, you know, get what Ten Hag wants, but it says a lot about, I think, just the level of scouting and recruitment at Manchester United. You know, if we had proper recruitment, proper director of football, proper scouts, you know, why would we be spending 50+ million on Mason Mount with 1 year left on his contract after a poor season, when there's probably better alternatives abroad that can do the exact same thing that he would bring? Yes, he's Premier League proven. Yes, he's got a British passport, so we can tick off that. You know, that Man United love that. But I just think, for me, I do back what Ten Hag wants in terms of when he wanted Lisandro Martinez. I didn't know a lot about him, but I was like, I know he's a good player. He's done well with Ten Hag Ajax. Anthony, I thought, was a crazy fee, but I do back Ten Hag on his signings. And if he wants Mount, I don't mind us signing Mount. But I just don't think I can be happy with us just signing Mount, you know. And I think you can't, like, if someone doesn't back a signing, I don't think you can say they don't back the manager. We all obviously back Ten Hag, but we want what's best for United. And we all see that we can lack control in midfield. We all see we're too reliant on Casemiro. We all see that we need someone to pick the drop deep and pick the ball off the centre backs and just everything. And we know that Mount won't quite offer that. And I think Ten Hag probably knows that he needs 2 midfielders, but, you know, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely need 2 midfielders. I mean, Rabiot for free, Alice, you know, Mount and Rabiot, the new Manchester United midfield, that could happen. Would you take Rabiot on a free? Would that be enough for you?
You know what? He's actually had a good season with Juventus. And on a free, I would take him. But again, it's a free signing. You know, you get Mount Rabiot. Yeah, all right, it's all right. But it's not what we want. We can do better. So I would actually take Rabiot on a free. If Man United went and signed like Declan Rice and Rabiot on a free, and we stole Declan Rice from Arsenal, and that made that deal 10 times better just because it annoys Arsenal fans, I'd be happy with that. If we signed Moises Caicedo and Rabiot, I'd be happy with that. But I do think we need a top quality midfielder that, like, goes into that United side, and you're like, play him with Casemiro, with Bruno. That's unreal. Mount's there to help get elite depth. Rabiot's there because we sell McTominay and Fred and Donny. So Mount and Rabiot come in to replace them, and then we get the signing we need in midfield. It's all about getting that signing we need in midfield. And I actually think Rabiot for free is actually decent business. Doesn't tick off those boxes that we need still.
Yeah, I know. I hear that. We've got a captain saying wages for Rabiot. I mean, they're going to be astronomical. His mother is the reason we've got Casemiro, so I'm not going to speak bad on her name, to be fair. So shout out to her. But I would imagine she drives a very hard bag. I mean, he had a great World Cup as well. Obviously, you mentioned his time at Juventus this season, which I do agree he's had a good season from what I've seen. But he also had a fantastic World Cup from what I recall. Shout out to Lucky Singh. What is kudos as prize? Listen, I'm not gonna lie. I don't want another Ajax player. I've got to be honest. I mean, I'm not opposed to Timber if he plays right back. I don't want him in centre back alongside Martinez. The ball's not particularly tall, and I just don't think that would work. But regarding Kudus, look, he's a top quality talent. Make no mistake about it. But he does play on the right wing, if I'm not mistaken. I know he can play in Cam as well. But I don't know. I just feel like we're just raiding them a bit too much. I think we need to start looking elsewhere a bit. I don't know what you think on that. Would be interested in getting him? Maybe potentially put pressure on Bruno.
I do think he's a good player, and I think he's better than Mason Mount, even though he's a slightly different player. But I think, we just very much linked to English players and Eredivisie players, and I think it very much says that Ten Hag is looking at players he knows because he doesn't trust the recruitment at United and the recruitment. Therefore, the amount of good, and I don't watch a lot of European football. I'm very Premier League heavy, but there's so many good talents abroad that can solve those midfield and creativity issues in the French league, in the Bundesliga, in the Portuguese league, and United just need to go out and find them and scout them. I think we need to get over this kind of Dutch Ajax obsession and this English obsession. I think if we're going to, as you said, if we're going to get a player from Ajax, make it Julian Timber. And I think it's just more our scouting. It's just so basic. It's English or Ajax at the moment, and I just think we need to really look and utilize what's in the market more.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there were reports coming out, suggesting that we are looking more into the French league. I mean, Enzo Lafille is in the French league. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm an expert on him by any stretch of the imagination. I've seen like 2 or 3 comps and he looks unbelievable. Yeah. He's a midfielder. But again, I'm not going to claim that I know much about him. Similar to the defender that I'm not even going to talk about because I don't personally know much about him. From what I've heard, he's quite good. He's quite athletic, that kind of thing. And he would be a great option. But again, that's just words that I've been told. But anyways, just quickly on Rabiot before I move on, I do actually agree with you. I think people are really snubbing Rabiot for no reason. I mean, obviously, I mentioned his mother. There's a bit of toxicity and potentially that's not the environment that we want to potentially bring into United. But in terms of a player on a free, he's an absolute bargain, to be honest. I can't lie. I mean, the wages may be an issue, but I would happily get rid of Fred for like 20, 30 minutes. We've seen the links to Fulham. The Fulham manager did speak to Fred after our game at the end of the season. So there's definitely some, solid links there because we've physically seen the communication between the manager and the player. I would happily ship off Fred and replace him with Rabiot, like for like. Rabiot straight into the bench. I don't personally want him to start week in, week out, which is obviously what you said as well. But as a squad option, I think it'd be all right. I think somebody did put in the chat as well. Sorry, I've missed the comment regarding Sabitzer. Just as we're talking on the midfield, what are your thoughts on Sabitzer, Alice? Obviously, we know the price tag is roughly like 20 million euros, I believe it was. Are you interested in Sabitzer, or do you think it's he hasn't done enough to?
Hasn't done enough for me. I know some people say, "Oh, he's been decent, he's done this." I've not watched. I've seen Sabitzer have some decent games, but I've not watched him and gone, "Yeah, he's quality. He's aging. He's injury prone. He's not done enough for me. He's not done what Bruno's done or what Casemiro's done." So for me, I think we've got to look elsewhere and look for a proper player.
Yeah, no, I hear that. Just quickly before we go on to the next couple of links, please do subscribe. We're very close to 1.5k. I think we're less than 10 subscribers away. So if you haven't already, please do subscribe. It is absolutely free. But I do agree with you regarding the Sabitzer comment. To be honest, I was really happy we got him. I'm not going to lie. I genuinely thought, he'd help us exponentially, but he didn't really get his opportunity. I remember there was one game in particular, he didn't get subbed on, and he ended up subbing on Weghorst in number 10 over him. And I just thought, if he's not going to get a game over Weghorst, he's not got a future at United. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not really sure why that was the case. I mean, he had scored twice against Sevilla, so it was a bit weird. But listen, Ten Hag's got his favourites. But listen, let's just quickly come back to the Mount, because I didn't actually give my thoughts. Listen, I've been absolutely livid with the Mount. If you follow me on Twitter, you would know that, because I've been absolutely livid. I mean, I've calmed down now, obviously, because it's been at least a week. But, I looked at quite a lot of analytical pages and, people that do like in-game analysis. I think with the Mount situation, essentially what he's trying to do is play with two advanced eights, which we've seen him trying to do with Eriksen, but he hasn't got the legs, so it hasn't worked. And then play with inverted fullbacks. I mean, at the moment with Wan-Bissaka, I don't think it's going to work. Obviously, Shaw is more than capable of doing that job because he's absolutely top quality. But it's interesting to say, like, I think he's basically trying to do what Pep's done with Stones. And basically, Luke Shaw be the inverted, basically John Stones' role, essentially. And then obviously keep Mount further up. Listen, I won't be opposed to that because I do think Shaw is more than capable of doing that. But I'd rather have a Caicedo there. I mean,
100%.
Look, I understand, like, you know, Ten Hag's got a system, and I agree that we should definitely buy players for his system. And if he's trying to do what I'm saying and keep Mount further up the pitch, Mount would flourish there. I'm not denying that. And I do think he would be brilliant because off the ball, he's second to none in terms of his fitness levels, you know, and his ability off the ball. It just provides so much to the team, and I don't think anyone can dispute that. But in terms of quality on the ball, we're lacking for me. I mean, Eriksen hasn't got the legs, but he's got the quality in moments. And I think Caicedo, to be honest, he's a first phase midfielder, and I genuinely think he would take us to the next level in terms of our ability to transition from back to front. I mean, a lot of times we are very laboured. And we saw, I don't know if you remember the game when they beat us 1-0. Caicedo was ridiculous in that game and beating the press. I remember on numerous occasions he was getting 1v3'd, and he was just coming out and finding a pass as well. I mean, it was ridiculous for a player of, you know, such a young age to have such a high football IQ. So I was really impressed with the performance. Yeah, he's made a couple of mistakes, but again, that's going to happen. He's only 21. So for me, if I was to pick any midfielder, I would 100% be Caicedo. I mean, Lucky Singer saying Lavia. I did actually put Lavia on my tweet, and I got cooked, which is quite funny, but it is what it is. I do rate Lavia as well, but I suppose my next question is, Alice, if you could pick one midfielder, who's your dream signing? Like, who? Obviously,
yeah, my
Bellingham's
first choice is I'm with you with Caicedo because can play right back inverted, can play 6, give Casemiro cover. I think he's better as an 8 next to Casemiro. 21, versatile, technical, Man United fan. You know, like I think if Man United, Chelsea, and Arsenal all went in for him, he would pick United.
Is he a Man United fan?
Yeah, reportedly a Man United fan. There's pictures of him in Ecuador wearing a United shirt.
Wow. Oh, because of Valencia, maybe.
Maybe.
That might make sense. Valencia's Ecuadorian, isn't he?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Like, I've heard he's a United fan, and remember when we were interested in him all those years back for 4 million?
5 million.
Yeah, and I remember he wanted United, and for some reason that went to the Glazers' dividends instead, that money, because classic United to miss out on a hidden gem. But for me, I think he is the perfect option because young, can only get better. Like with Casemiro's guidance, with Ten Hag's guidance, his versatility. If we do sign him a Mount, he could be the inverted right back. If you know, as you were saying, that's what he's been doing for Brighton. He can be the Casemiro cover. Ten Hag loves versatility. You know, United have always had him on the radar. 21 years of age. I just reacted to a tweet now that David Ornstein was saying Chelsea wants 70 million plus 10 million add-ons for Mason Mount, which is a joke. Caicedo's apparently got an 80 million price tag on him. If we're going to have to spend 80 million on Mount, so I think we might as well spend that on Caicedo. Has had a good season. It's got 4 or 5 years left on this deal. If we didn't get Caicedo, my backup would maybe be Declan Rice. I don't think he's as good going forward, but I think that he's a top player. And, you know, I think we've seen with Casemiro coming in, the top CDM really elevates the game and the control. And I think that he would work next to Casemiro well. And then, you know, if it was possible, if we couldn't get Rice, I would go for Frankie de Jong still, but I don't think that's going to happen. But again,
he'd be the dream, honestly, really.
He would be the dream. Other shouts like Lavia, can't say no to either, but Moises Caicedo, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, Lucky Singer is literally spamming live in the chat. Like I said, Lucky Singer, if you follow me on Twitter, I could have done with you because I got absolutely cooked because I said I want Lavia and everyone was like, what are you talking about? What's your football like? Yeah, I am a massive fan of Lavia. I think he's massively underrated.
So young.
Is he from the Man City Academy or is he from the Chelsea?
Yeah, but he's like 19 and he's so, like, he looks very technical, which is always a good sign.
I mean, he again similar to Caicedo. He's very good. He's very press resistant, should I say? He's very good in the first phase as well. He's a ball carrying midfielder, which we do not have since Pogba's Well, basically since he's left, essentially. I mean, people don't rate Pogba, so we're not getting to that. But yeah, we haven't replaced him. Basically, that's my issue. I mean, his profile player, ball playing midfielder that is able to obviously get us up the pitch and also is creative. He's a unicorn, really. Obviously, it's a shame it didn't work out for him. But
yeah, do you know who I also wanted, but he couldn't wait till summer? Would have been Enzo Fernandez. The Chelsea midfielder. I think he would have been really, really good.
I think he's going to be top quality. I genuinely do think he's going to have a great season next season. I think he's going to be up there, one of the players of the season. Generally, he's shown he's got that eye for a pass, which, well, we saw it, didn't we, in that game? But he absolutely tore us apart. And somehow ended up in a 4-1 loss. I don't know how that. Oh, God, absolutely ridiculous. All right, we're going to just finish off with the striker. And then, to be fair, we've spoken most about everything apart from the season. So we'll finish off the striker quickly. And then we'll just have a quick recap of the season because we don't need to go into too much detail. Continue to get your comments in, people. I'm reading them, like I said. Please do slap a like on the video, obviously, and make sure you subscribe. I've just got a comment from David Ormstein. Oh, I can't see anyone. It's gone. But anyways, let's just get your thoughts quickly on the striker. Obviously, everyone in the chat, get your comments in. I'm just going to put them on the screen, basically. So let us know who you want as a striker. If you've got one striker, I know we need two because Martial realistically is on his way out, etc. But if you could only start one striker this summer, everyone in the chat, who would it be? And same for you, Alice. What do you reckon?
It's a tough one with the striker situation. I think Victor Osimhen is an insane player, but that price tag, he scores a lot of headers. Does he suit the system? Harry Kane, Daniel Levy will make us pay a lot of money for him, but I think he comes in, he scores 30 goals with the if he scored 30 goals in that Spurs side and United create the third most chances in the Premier League, 8 goals this season. Harry Kane comes in and elevates you right away. The only question is with longevity. For me, I would say it's between Harry Kane and Gonzalo Ramos. Because I think long-term Gonzalo Ramos is better. What I've watched from him, I've not watched a lot of him, but I was watching Benfica in Europe. They were so exciting to watch. And obviously in the World Cup, I do think he's a striker that's good with the ball at his feet, which is really important. I think he could work well with Rashford, Sancho, Anthony, Gonzalo Ramos. And there was saying that Benfica would negotiate 70 to 100 million. So I think if you could get Gonzalo Ramos, 21 years of age, for 70 million, I would go for him. But I do think Kane might be our best option in terms of coming in right away. But I think really, for a good price, I'd probably edge towards Gonzalo Ramos now.
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a few comments coming. Obviously, keep them coming in. Obviously, I went black screen. I got a text from one of my mates saying David Ornstein's essentially tweeted that Sir Jim Ratcliffe is confident that his bid will get accepted. So that's coming from David Ornstein. Again, that's just what my mate's tweet. I don't know if it's on his Twitter or whatnot.
I'll have a check.
So if it is on his Twitter, then obviously that's the most credible source you can get. So yeah, I mean, of course, the reports are suggesting that there has been positive conversation in the last 2 weeks, and Sir Jim Ratcliffe is confident that his deal would get accepted. Basically, to summarise that, so a bit of positivity to hopefully brighten another day there. Yeah, so let's come back to. Oh, you got an update, Alice? I feel like you've got it for you.
I was just reading the David Ornstein tweet.
Oh, do you want to read it out for us word for word?
Just says David Ornstein about Man United ownership. It has emerged in recent weeks that Sir Jim Ratcliffe's bid feels like it's really strong position, and they have gone into detail in negotiations. There's optimism that it will win in the end. So that Sir Jim's just going into detail. I think they'll win.
Well, there you go. I mean, to be fair, obviously he's going to have optimism. As we mentioned right at the top of the show, he's an absolute disgrace the way he's gone about it. The fact that he's allowed the Glazers to keep 20%. For me personally, it's just snake the fans. I mean, that's the way I see it anyways. Obviously, each of their own opinions regarding that. But at the end of the day, he always promised a full sale. I mean, that was always any fans' attention. I don't think most fans went into this ownership thing thinking, there might be a case that the Glazers actually stay. I always assumed it would just be a full sale, but he, of course, moved those goalposts. But yeah, just to come back to the striker situation, I don't think Harry Kane's coming, Alice. I've got to be honest with you.
Madrid.
I don't even think it's Real Madrid. I think there's 0% chance he leaves. Actually, that's a bit harsh. Maybe 10%. I don't think Levy's going to let him go. I mean, It's beyond me. Unless Kane really pushes for it, that's the only way I can see it happening. I mean, he did do the Gary Neville interview when Man City were interested for him. It'll be
Yeah.
interested. It'll be interesting to now see how much he respects United or Real Madrid.
I think if he wants to go abroad, Levy might let him go abroad because he won't
Yeah.
want to get nothing for him next year. But I think he won't let him go to an English club.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Got a comment from Shiju. Game over for Manchester United if the Glazers stay with Jim. Absolutely agree. Would have liked Lautaro Martinez. Too late now. I'm not a fan of him. To be fair to me, he always does well for Inter Milan. And actually, let me retract that statement because I've just realised he's saving at us on the weekend, hopefully. So let me retract that. I'm a big fan of Lautaro. Bring you home on the weekend, my guy. I always rated you. We'll just stick with that for now. I'll ask me next week. But yeah, just coming back to what you're saying regarding that, I think that's a very good point. I do think there is definitely truth behind the fact that he doesn't want him to stay in the Premier League, which I can understand, of course, especially to Manchester United. I don't see us as a rival because Spurs are shit, so that's the honest truth. I don't see them as a rival. I don't see them competing with us. Granted, we're not the be-all or end-all, but Spurs are just a nothing team. I don't really see them as a rival personally. But that being said, if he's willing to keep him and get rid of him for free, then it is where it is. We'll have to just hopefully snap him up next season. I think Gonzalo Ramos, is that you pronounce his name? I think I pronounced it wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. So look, to be fair, again, I'm not going to sit here and say I've watched loads and loads of footage of him, but from what I have seen of him, he does look like an actual striker, someone that has that instinct to sniff out danger, which is something we're lacking basically. I mean, Martial, for all he is good on the ball and when he's fit, of course, he just doesn't have that killer instinct regardless of whether he's fit or not. He just doesn't have it. I mean, I remember when Oli was in charge and he used to say a lot of the time that Martial needs to score a lot of ugly goals. He doesn't score enough ugly goals. And to be fair to Oli, he was a fantastic striker. And if anyone knows, it's him. So, yeah, I just think that's our biggest issue. And that goes for Rashford. That goes for all our strikers, really. They don't score tap-ins, essentially, which is what you want. I personally just want a fox in the box. I have kind of been going big on Rasmus Højlund, sorry.
Yeah, he's good.
To be honest, obviously that Atlanta, from what I've seen of him, he does have unbelievable movement. Like generally, he's extremely young. He's a massive point. They're both very young, to be fair, to be leading line for Man United. They're both too young to be leading the line, to be honest, for United. It's a lot of pressure for anyone, let alone two youngsters trying to, hone their craft, so to speak. I just think it's going to be too difficult for any of them players. Although I do rate them. I think they're both similar to Alvarez, that there should be a second striker. The way City have done it with Haaland and Alvarez, that's how it should be. So Erasmus, for example, if he was to come in, he shouldn't be leading the second striker off the bench, 20, 30 minutes, potentially knocking on the door, putting pressure, obviously on the main striker, whoever that may be. But yeah, to have either of them leading the line next season is going to be a massive, massive worry. Alice fan here, big up all. Thank you so much. Obviously, everyone's Alice fan. Who's not? Do you know what I mean? But listen, we've got 15 minutes. Less than 15 minutes. But we're gonna quickly just give our thoughts on the season. So listen, I want everyone to get involved in the chat. Every single person, if you're watching us repeat as well, give your thoughts on a rating out of 10. 10 being an unbelievable season. Obviously, 1 being an absolute shocker, which was basically last year. So on a scale from last season to unbelievable season, what do you reckon, Alice? Have you given it any thought? Because I haven't, I'm not going to lie. But where do you think Manchester United fall this season?
Do you know what? Considering the expectations, I will give it an 8. Out of 10, I think this season. I had very poor expectations. I thought we were going to finish 6th and not win a trophy. We have had big defeats like 7-0 Liverpool, 4-0 Brentford, which is why it could not go any higher. Yeah. But if you'd have said to me after we lost 4-0 to Brentford that we were going to win a trophy, yes, it's the Carabao Cup, but it's a trophy, and come 3rd place and qualify for the Champions League, finish above Liverpool, who were the quadruple, like just a year ago, I think, I have to give it an 8 out of 10 because it's Ten Hag's first season. He's took over the worst squad in United history, won a trophy, got us back in the top 4. If we'd have won the FA Cup, maybe I'd have pushed it to an 8.5. But I think, I'd say 8's a fair score.
I think 8 is a very fair score. It seems like a lot of people in the chat agree with you as well. For me, if we won the FA Cup, Alice, I would have given it a 9, to be honest. just because I would have been happy with anything, let alone 2 trophies. But I think I'm going to give it a 7.5. I think the only reason I've knocked him down from an 8 is because I can't get over that Europa League exit. I just can't get over it. Because I genuinely thought we'd win that competition. After Arsenal got knocked out,
Barca.
I can't remember who we played. We beat another Spanish team. I can't remember which one it was. Was it like Betis or something?
Betis.
Or was it Betis? But yeah, before we got Sevilla, I just thought to myself, Juventus are our own threats. I mean, it's the biggest threat. I know Sevilla ended up winning it. But I just looked at the rest of the teams when Arsenal got out and I thought, surely we've won this. Like, Juventus are the only team really that we should be worried about. Every other team on paper, if we perform to 70% of our ability, we should beat them. And the manner in which we capitulated, granted, it wasn't, of course, it's not Ten Hag's, but this isn't a rating for Ten Hag, but this is a rating for the season itself. It's just frustrating. I mean, even to this day, the fact that we were 2-0 up at home and we drew 2-2 is embarrassing. I mean, we were battering them as well. Like, we should have been out of sight.
Yeah, that was the worst game of the season with Martinez and Varane getting injured.
Oh, yeah, that was the game that everyone got injured, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Martinez get injured that game as well?
Martinez and Varane, we were 2-0 up, and then Martinez and Varane got injured.
Yes, and then Bruno got suspended. Bruno got suspended as well.
From, like, the silliest thing. That was, the most painful game because it was just like, I'll be cursed.
That game was a disaster. I mean, the fact that we bottled the 2-0 lead, but also both our centre-backs got enough injured and our main attacking mid got suspended. It was a night to forget, essentially, but sadly I can't. So that's the main reason I knocked it down. I think what you said is absolutely spot on in terms of, context is extremely important. Granted, there's a lot of areas that we need to improve in terms of the football, in terms of, managing games better, that kind of thing. And just overall performances, I guess. But you got to look at where we were. I mean, I suppose I keep mentioning like it's a Ten Hag review. We'll do that in a second. But we had the Ronaldo saga. We had the Maguire situation where everything was happening. We had the Greenwood situation, which was an absolute shit show. That was wow. I mean, a lot has happened. A lot has happened mentally for the United fans, and obviously we've had an injury galore. Rashford's the only one that scored. So yeah, I think we've done well considering the situation. And as you said, I would have been happy with top 4, to be honest, just to get back in the Champions League. Granted, it's not the most prestigious trophy, but I could not care less. I celebrated to my heart's content. So we will take that. But I suppose the next question would be thoughts on Ten Hag. What's your rating for him? And obviously, what your thoughts moving forward?
Again, really happy with Ten Hag. I think one thing he's done well is his man management. I think our poor season last year, a lot of it was to do with the lack of control in the dressing room. He's come in, he got rid of a lot of people, did a big clear out. He made quite a few changes. There was a big attitude problem. I remember reports coming out in March last year that 17 players wanted to leave. There were some serious problems that he had to deal with. I think for a first perspective, Ten Hag's man management is something that really impressed me. I do think that this team does work hard. They have a few blips. Second thing I'm happy is I think the general football we play is better. I think there's been blips where he's brought on Weghorst and I'm like, could you just bring on Police Street, or we scored a goal and we sat back. But I think a lot of it is we're getting to the end of the season, it's grinding out results, we're tired. I think that spell we had from once the World Cup finished to about March before the Martinez and Varane injury, where we just didn't almost lose a game, that was that spell. I was like, this is what Ten Hag can do. Where before the Casemiro suspensions and everything, that run of 20 games or something, it was crazy, where we were playing good attacking football, controlling games. That said to me, okay, yeah, I rate Ten Hag. He's got this team playing well. We can get this team to play well, but what more can you expect him to do when you're in an FA Cup final? Bringing McTominay and Weghorst off the bench, and City have got Foden, Alvarez, etc. And I generally give Ten Hag back an 8 out of 10 as well. I think for expectations for the dressing room, he had to deal with things like the Ronaldo situation. He's had to deal with the board, but second game of the season against Brentford, and we just signed Malacia, Ericsson on a free, and he'd got Martinez in, which was his only proper signing, Martinez at the time, after our worst ever season and losing all these players. He's nothing in January. Gakpo goes to Liverpool, João Felix goes to Chelsea. To finish third place after the start we had, no backing in January, to win a trophy, done well. Really happy with Ten Hag.
I hear that. I mean, just quickly, just want to shout out Matthew As always, my brother, I know you've just tuned in. Get your ratings in, my guy. You might have to catch you on repeat, but thank you so much, as always. You're one of the regulars, so I appreciate you. If you aren't a regular or if you haven't subscribed, make sure you do subscribe. Like I said, we were under 10 basically, away from the milestone, so it's completely free. And make sure, of course, you do slap a like in the video if you're enjoying. Myself and others will do more videos like this, obviously, if you guys enjoy it. But yeah, I think you're spot on with the rain. I don't think he deserves anything less. I mean, some people may be extremely critical. I've seen some ridiculously wild takes on social media. I mean, Twitter is definitely the best place for football opinions, clearly. So I've seen people give him a 6, a 6.5, 7, etc. But I think 8 is right. I do agree with a lot of what you said. I think in terms of his man management, I think the way he dealt with the Ronaldo situation was exemplary. I know a lot of people will say his hand was forced somewhat off the back of the Ronaldo interview, and there's definitely some truth to that. So I'm not gonna deny that, but nevertheless, I just thought he was absolutely fantastic in that situation. The way he sort of navigated his minutes, and the fact that he made it more about the team and not Ronaldo. I mean, it must be extremely difficult to have a player of Ronaldo's ego and just Ronaldo's stature in the game to say to him, "No, I'm not going to start you. You're not good enough," etc. Or we don't need you to start. I mean, whether that was right or wrong remains to be seen. But for me, just the fact that he had the cojones to make that call, I respect him a lot for that. Off the back of that, the same thing with Maguire. Kept Maguire as captain, but basically said you're sitting on the bench. Gave him the first 2 games to basically make his bed, full well knowing that he would absolutely capitulate, which is basically what he does all the time. And then since then, he's hardly given him an opportunity. He's played him here and there. I think he's rotated the team as well as he possibly can, given what he's got at his disposal. I think he's been absolutely fantastic in that sense. I do think the football needs to improve, but a lot of that is down to the lack of personnel for me. I know people will say that's an excuse, that's a cop-out. People are going to say, my personal favourite comment is, how has Eddie Howe done X, Y, and Z with his Newcastle team, with the likes of Almiron, etc.? The truth of the matter is very simple. He's had 5 to 6 days of training on the training ground with his players week in, week out. Manchester United have had 2 weeks since September that we've not had 3 games a week. You can't do in-depth tactics, in-depth sort of player patterns, etc. It's difficult to implement that with next to no time. So I think next season I'm going to judge him more so on the football. Hopefully that's definitely improved. So yeah, that would be my biggest sort of criticism, really. I think the football definitely needs to improve moving forward, and the identity, obviously, as the United way saying, would you say we're building an identity? You kind of alluded to that, Alice, but I suppose a question to add on to that: what do you think the identity is under Ten Hag? Do you think it's going to be exciting football? Like, what do you see him trying to do? Because you kind of mentioned the fact that you're seeing a bit of that. Like, what do you think that overall image looks like, so to speak?
I think he wants to do what he did at Ajax, which I think explains the Mason Mount links. Play 4-3-3 attacking football, 2 8s, Bruno and Mount in the 8 role, potentially inverted fullback. I think that's what he wants to do, but it's about, he can't do that until he gets everyone in. You've got to remember with Ten Hag, there was only 1 game this season we could start our strongest 11, and that was that Everton game, and then Martial was injured after 20 minutes. Yeah. He's not had everyone fit, or Casemiro's been suspended, or this player's been injured, and there's been so many problems that actually, he's not had his strongest 11, and he's only had 1 summer. He hasn't got the goalkeeper in that he wants. He hasn't got in that midfielder that he wants. He hasn't got in that striker yet. I think he wants to do what he did at Ajax, and I think we saw glimpses of what he was trying to do, and he wants to play that modern football, but again, he hasn't got the resources to do that, and I think that's why we're hearing stories that Ten Hag's getting frustrated this summer, because he knows it's such an important summer, and that, he's got the Glazers and the United taking their time to deal with. We know what he wants to do. It's kind of what he did at Ajax. It's just getting the resources.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I mean, in terms of, trying to replicate what he's done previously at Ajax, I think it's extremely important that we do give him the players. I suppose I'm a bit of a hypocrite. I'm sure someone will tell me that in the comments, because I'm not happy about Mount. And on the flip side, I'm saying bringing in players that suit his system. So if Mount does suit his system, I'm just going to hopefully, be sat here with egg on my face because Mount's proved me wrong, and I'm happy to, be that person. But yeah, overall, we have definitely seen improvements. We have seen patterns of play. We have seen more team goals for me me personally. Granted, a lot of the situation has been, creating chances, but the final third has been beckoning. It's been lacking, and I do think that's on the players, to be honest. A lot of the times, I think the players haven't taken responsibility for that. But listen, Alice, we're going to finish the show. The last thing, obviously, everyone get yourselves involved in the comment section as well. There's 30 of you in here, so make sure you do slap a like and, of course, subscribe, which I've said about a billion times. But I want to see everyone in the chat. Give us a name. Who has been your player of the season for Manchester United, Alice? What are your thoughts?
Do you know what? I was saying this. I think, it shows that we've had a good season when there's probably 4 players, or even 5, you could say, with maybe Luke Shaw, that, deserve it. I think the top 5 players this season have been Shaw, Bruno Fernandes, Casemiro, Lisandro Martinez, and Rashford. I think all 5 of them have had phenomenal seasons. And there's moments where I think one player's been the best. There was a moment where Rashford was our best player. There was a moment where Casemiro was our best and most important player. Lisandro Martinez has just been good whenever he's played, it feels like.
AB Wan-Bissaka.
It's been all right, to be fair, but not quite. Bruno's been important. It's so hard because I think Casemiro, before those suspensions, was clear player of the season. We got suspensions. Then Lisandro Martinez has been so important for us as well. We could tell with the injury, but that form Rashford was in to get 30 goals, the first player to get 30 goals since, I don't know, Van Persie, very long time. To come back from the season Rashford had last year, people wanting him out, Trashford, and to do that, considering that he's not playing with a proper striker and all of that, was unreal. I think I gave it to Martinez when I did mine, just because you can't dislike Lisandro Martinez, but it's so hard to choose between Bruno, Rashford, Casemiro, and Martinez. I think I've always edged it Martinez, just because I think it's a bit of his personality that I love. But honestly, they should have just given it to like 4 players.
Yeah, I mean, it's extremely. Rashford got it, didn't he? He got the player award. Who got was it Rashford who got both?
Both, you got both, yeah.
Oh, fair enough. I mean, look, just quickly on Rashford. In case you didn't hear, we have got a debate show next week. I'm basically, I used to do it before, but I'm going to bring it back. Myself and a panel, so it's going to be 6 of us in total. 3 Rashford haters. And when I say haters, I mean haters. These guys hate Rashford, and they're Man United fans. So, and obviously 3 Rashford lovers. So, as you can imagine, it's going to be absolutely pandemonium in terms of arguing. That's going to happen potentially next week, if not the week after. So make sure you stay tuned for that. So we'll delve into Rashford. But I just want to quickly say the disrespect that this guy has got has been absolutely embarrassing. I mean, he's got 30 goals. 30. I mean, I think the next one in line is Bruno with 12. I mean, he's almost got more goals than Sancho. Probably has more goals than Sancho, Martial, and Anthony combined, and Garnacho. I mean, I don't really want to criticize them too much, but just as a collective, he's got more goals than all of them. And I know it's not all about GA, which is what I keep getting told. I understand that there's more to the game, but you can't criticize a man if he's scoring 30 goals, please. To that extent, and he's got flows, etc. But anyways, I could probably go on a tangent here. We're not going to do that. Shout out to you, Winston, Usman, Alice, great stuff. Thank you. I can't remember. Oh, my player of the season. Did you pick Martinez in yet?
I think I've just edged it Martinez just because.
Okay, I think everyone in the chat has basically said Martinez. I haven't seen the name, to be fair, which is a bit of a surprise. I must say, I do think, as you mentioned, there's quite a few players that could potentially get it, but I'm going to actually give it to Casemiro. I'm going to give it Casemiro. That's mine anyway. I just love him. I mean, I love Martinez as well. I do think Martinez, my pick Weghorst. No, thank you. Weghorst has got the same amount of Premier League goals as me. Bloody hell. So look, for me, Casemiro, yes, he missed those 7 games and it was an absolute travesty. But off the back of last season and watching McFred play week in, week out, this guy saved us. I mean, he has been ridiculous. I mean, the levels that we have gone up because of him have just been night and day. Obviously, we've had a couple of slappings and he has contributed in those games. He's had a couple of poor games, don't get me wrong. But I just think overall, man, what he's brought to his team, alongside Lisandro, to be fair, has just been a breath of fresh air. I mean, his passion, his work rate, his leadership on and off the pitch. I mean, his relationship with Bruno, it's quite nice to see that little bromance growing as well. And to be fair, I was extremely surprised, but he's contributed 7 goals, some of which have been extremely important. I mean, scored the goal against Chelsea, didn't you? Twice.
Yeah.
Obviously, the one that we scored in the last kick of the game in the first game of the season that we played him, and then obviously the goal that obviously put us 1-0 up, which essentially won us the game. And of course, his most notably goal in the final against Newcastle, which definitely won us the game. Important goals, big moments, big player. Casemiro for me, time and time again. But listen, thank you everyone for tuning in. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed the show. It's been an absolute pleasure, as always, to have the lovely Alice on. In case you are not aware, her link is tagged in the title. I'm sure you guys will probably come from Alice anyways. But if they haven't, Alice, just in case, let them know where they can find you.
Just literally talk Alice Talks Football in YouTube, TikTok, Alice Talks 50 in Twitter, and you'll pretty much find me on social media. Thanks for having me on, Usman. Always a pleasure to come on here. Let's hope Inter do something for us on Saturday.
Yes, definitely. As Alice said, make sure you go obviously run up her social, support her and everything she does. She's absolutely fantastic. And like I said, she's always supported the channel from the very get-go. That doesn't make sense, but you know what I'm trying to say. Anyways, follow my socials, Usman Talks United, if you want to see me rattle Tottenham, Arsenal, Chelsea, rival fans galore, and everything up to date with everything that is Sheikh Jassim. As always, thank you so much for everyone that's tuning in. It's been your boy Usman. We'll be back